Can you guys hear me okay? Let me know. Give me a quick thumbs up. Let me know if you can hear me. Sorry about that. I thought I was talking, but I think I was muted for a moment. Okay, we're good. We're good. Sorry about that, guys. Welcome to the Dividend Happy Hour. I'm so stoked to be back with you guys for another week. And we are one day early. I know I'm not going to be around tomorrow, so I had to bump the stream up to tonight. But I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Appreciate you tuning in with me tonight. And I apologize for the inconvenience. But with that said, let's see who we got here in the building. I see Chris. I see Shamir. I see Pat. I see myself. Be on in just a moment. Sorry for the delay, guys. I see my man Fallon Zapp, 1/3 of the way through the Snowball. Never was a reader. I'm actually surprised for myself. And actually, with that said, guys, tonight we are going to be talking about 3 must-read investment books for 2024. And I'm actually going to share with you a few other books as well, show you what's on my reading list for this year. But actually, the thing about these books, too, is they are must-reads, not only in 2024, but really any time period. If you're just getting into investing, or if you just want to get more into reading, maybe you're a seasoned investor, but don't do too much reading, the 3 books we're talking about tonight are going to be great places to start. So we'll go through that in just a minute, but I just want to say what's up to you guys, see who we got in the building. I already saw Fallon Zapp, we got Chris, we got Pat, I see Lucas, Shamir, you old scallywag. I love it. I think that one's going to stick, Shamir. We got Fast Eddie, we got Wing Addiction. Nathan, good to see you, my friend. Let's see. I already said Pat, Andy, we have Jim. Good to see you tonight, Jim. Nathan. Okay, talking about the Snowball, a 38-hour audiobook. Wow. And actually, with that said, real quick, guys, are you guys more audiobook listeners? Are you actually, paperback, hardcover book readers? What's your preference? I'm curious to know there. I'm personally like the physical copies, something about it just can't really replace. Okay. Sorry, I'm just getting caught up in the chat here. Yeah, sorry for the mute at the start, guys, but we got it figured out. I see Haas. I see El Dynamico. Good to see you. Greetings from West Sac. Yeah, he said meeting today caught me off guard, but I'm here. Yeah, with that said, once more, guys, for those of you who just now hopped in the stream, I'm not going to be around tomorrow night, so I had to reschedule it to tonight, and so I figured it was better to do it tonight than not do the stream at all. So here we are, and for those of you watching the replay and weren't able to make it live tonight, thinking that we maybe still have the stream tomorrow, I really apologize. Yeah, I apologize, but I appreciate you guys tuning in nonetheless. Let's see. I see Jonah here, Ruby and David, Play 23. This is a really good question. What got you into investing? I'll answer that. Stick around till we get through the main spiel. And ask this one again, because this is a really good question. I'd love to talk more about this. I see Andy, Kevin, Nathan. We got Rick in the building, and Rick guys just started posting some investing stuff over on his channel. I watched his first investment video the other day. Really solid stuff. So you guys should head over to his channel and take a watch and see what he's got going on there. So good to see you tonight, Rick. And I think I'm all caught up in the chat here, actually. We got Garfield, who's going with the paperbacks. But with that, guys, now that the gang's all here, now that we've gotten warmed up a little bit, why don't we kick things off with a quick cheers? So grab your drink of choice, whatever you're sipping on tonight for the happy hour. And what should we cheers to? Let's go. I mean, really, it's the, January 4th. Here's to you guys. We made it through the first trading week of 2024. We survived. Well, it's not over quite yet. I guess we still have tomorrow, but we're almost through the first trading week of 2024. And so here's to that. Here's to you guys. And here's to the pursuit of that sweet, sweet cash flow, which is what brings us all together here tonight. But anyway, cheers. Let me know on that note. Let me know a few things here in the live chat or in the comments below if you're watching the replay. Number one, what did you buy this week? I know we still have one day left in the week, but what have you picked up this week? What have you added to your portfolio? If you haven't made any purchases yet, what are you going to buy tomorrow? Let me know that. Number two, what are you sipping on tonight for the Dividend Happy Hour? What is your drink of choice tonight? Personally, I just have a little bit of Sprite Zero. I'm going to be keeping it clean all month, guys. Just going to cut out the alk for most of January. I actually have the in-laws coming to town later this month, so I'll probably throw a few back when they're here. But otherwise, I'm keeping it clean, trying to be strict here in the new year, kick it off on a good note. So we're sticking with Sprite tonight. But number three, I want to know number three here. let me know. Did anything cool happen in your guys' portfolio this week? Did you hit any milestones? Maybe you hit your first, $10,000 in the portfolio, or maybe you reached your first $1,000 of annual dividend income, or maybe reached 100 shares of SCHD, anything like that. I want to know about it here in the chat or in the comments below. If you're in the chat, I want to put it up on the screen and show what you guys have going on there. So taking it back to you guys here. Shamir sipping on some red wine. Who sings it, guys? I don't know. Probably won't. Stay close to quit while I'm ahead. But you guys, who sings it? Who's the artist? Was sipping on some cherry Coke. Bought some VU this week. Love it. We've got Jay picked up some Pfizer this week. Kevin bought Realty Income, Jeppy, and SCHD. Nice little shopping spree there. We got Peter picked up 2 shares of SCHD. Chris, nice purchase here. VU and Walmart. Very nice. Rick's drinking some Woodford Reserve. Nice. That's some sort of whiskey. I'm not sure the exact kind. I'm really not a big whiskey guy myself, but I know that is something along those lines. Vacation time, sipping on some coffee, sold out of YCL. Okay. Mark bought some LLY in Costco. Very nice. We got Ricardo with some SCHD, Vici, and then dollar cost average into a couple ETFs there. Yeah, Peter says Walgreens cut their dividend in half. They sure did. They cut it by, I think, like 48%. Honestly, not super duper surprising, and probably a necessary move for the company. We talked about Walgreens fairly recent. I talked about it in a recent video, actually. And Walgreens, I think their sales, if I remember correctly, their sales were pretty flat. Maybe the sales were going up a little bit. I don't quite remember. But if you go up like all the way down the income statement, the company was becoming less profitable over time. They'd taken on quite a bit of debt in the last few years and did not see any meaningful growth in free cash flow. And so I think the writing was kind of on the wall. But I think overall, it'll be a good thing for Walgreens. So, but with that said, I mean, what do you guys do? What are you guys doing with Walgreens? I know some of you guys out there are probably shareholders. Are you buying? Are you holding? Are you selling after this news? And for those of you who have been on the sidelines, maybe just watch it now. Does the dividend cut change anything for you? Does it look at all any more attractive to you now that they've reduced the dividend? I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on the company after this move, after this announcement. Yeah, Korean Cardboard, going back to the red wine song, UB40 classic. I don't even know what else they sing. I don't even know if they've made any other songs. That might be their only track. But no, I know they've definitely put out some other songs. I've heard some of their other songs, but I don't know what they are off the top of my head. Let's see. There we go. El Dynamico's got a nice little milestone, guys. I'm cheering for positive returns so far this year and reaching my first 10K and sipping on some coffee. My friend in West Sacramento, it is almost 5:15, sipping on coffee. That is a bold move. I would be bouncing off the walls later tonight if I had coffee right now. Let's see. Jim here bought some Cisco, actually. Cisco and CNHI. What is CNHI? The ticker symbol is escaping me right now. So CNH Industrial. I hadn't heard of that company, but Cisco's not a bad one. Cisco's one that I always keep in the back of my mind. Anyway, here we go. Kevin, mostly a little nibble, dollar cost averages to 8 different positions. Don't want to upset the mailman. Yeah, I see you guys with some more UB40, but Jim here with a little Neil Diamond classic. Touching me, touching you. Doom, doom, doom. Do not get me started, guys. So, okay, you got me started. Here we go. So I remember there was a period of time where I was going to the University of Oregon. So I lived up in Eugene for a short period of time. It really wasn't that long, but I lived right around the corner from a lot of the local, like, college bars that all the students would go to on the weekends and stuff like that. You had Taylor's, you had Rennie's, you had, Max's, and I always liked Rennie's. Rennie's was always my favorite, but Max's. So I don't remember the exact time, but as the bar was closing, maybe it was at, like, I don't know. I think it was when the bar was closing. Every single night, the whole bar would sing Sweet Caroline. It was just like the tradition there. Fun fact. Let's see. Let's keep going here. Scroll down. get caught up in the chat and we'll get into the main event in just a moment. And then for those of you who are just now tuning in, it looks like there's about 100 of us here in the stream. Tonight, we're talking about a few stocks. Tonight, we're talking about a few books that I think are just absolute must reads for investors. Every investor, whether you're just starting out or whether you've been investing for a while now, whatever the case is, I think all three of these books are must reads and should be on your reading list in 2024 and beyond. One of them, I've read all of them, but one of them I actually probably should start going through again, because it's such a good book and it's been a couple years. I see my man Jeff in the building. Good to see you, my friend. Let's keep going down here. Yeah, Ruby and David, another great question. Do you have any specific goals or targets or something for 2024? I sure do. And I'd love to talk more about that, but I think we should start getting into the main event. Oh, there we go. I actually didn't know this. We'll get into the main event after this comment. Red Wine is a song. Okay, Neil Diamond originally did Red Wine. I did not know that. But Ruby and David, you've got a couple good questions that I want to circle back to about investing goals. And you asked me one earlier about, I don't remember what that other one was, but it was another good question that I'd love to circle back to. But guys, let's get into the main event. So we're talking about 3 must-read investing books for 2024. And before we get into that, just kind of zooming out a little bit, in general, I think reading is an essential activity for investors. I think it's one of those things that you should probably start doing if you're not already. And it's one thing we could probably already do more of. And one person who was really, really vocal about that actually was Charlie Munger. And I've got a few good quotes from the man himself on the importance of reading. I'll put those up on the screen right now. Hopefully you can see that. So this first quote here: in my whole life, I have known no wise people over a broad subject matter area who didn't read all the time. None. Zero. So if you want to become wise over a long period of time, reading's essential. And another thing that Charlie said kind of along these lines is he often referred to, or had referred to investing as, and I'm paraphrasing, a subset of worldly wisdom. And that was basically his life's mission, was to acquire this worldly wisdom. And he used investing as kind of a vehicle for that, or reading is a ways to achieve that and then put that into investing because it applies to investing. But anyway, quote number 2, and these are all pretty similar too: develop into a lifelong self-learner through voracious reading, cultivate curiosity, and strive to become a little bit wiser every single day. So in the same way that $5 into your portfolio every week, $10 every single week, whatever it is into your portfolio, those small contributions every week will compound over time. So will reading just a little bit every day. Those results will compound in each other across a long period of time. So in the pursuit of this worldly wisdom, it's those small baby steps forward. Just reading, a little bit every single day. And I personally, that's something I try and do, whether it's 10 pages or 15 pages, 20 pages a day, even a chapter, depending on how long it is. I'll try and just chip away at whatever book I'm reading at that point in time, which right now is this book right here, Titan, which is the biography of John D. Rockefeller. And this one has been a mission. I've been chipping away at it for a couple months now, and it's like a 700-page behemoth. I'm almost done with it. But yeah, a little bit every single day, it'll make a difference. But anyway, going to quote number 3, which is a lot like quotes number 1 and 2. If it's wisdom you're after, you are going to spend a lot of time sitting on your butt and reading. So combining all of these quotes together, basically, guys, investing, if you want to become a more wise, a more knowledgeable investor, one thing that will really help you get there is reading. And like I said, this is something that I try to do every day, at least a little bit, because I do think it is important, although I understand it's not the most exciting thing for a lot of people. And this was kind of the case for me when I first started investing. I really did not like reading. I had a hard time getting into it. I remember like not being able to get through a page without getting distracted. But with practice, that kind of went away. Now it's something that I really enjoy. And it's something that I've come to appreciate as well. And the thing that I appreciate about reading is that it allows you to soak up whatever it is you're reading. I mean, you can soak up the insights and the experiences and the lessons learned by the author or the subject. If you're reading like a biography, you can soak up everything they've learned and everything they've gone through in a matter of days, in a matter of weeks, and the few months it might take you to read a book. You can get all that information in a much shorter period of time, the same information that likely took the author or the subject of the book probably years to acquire. So it's basically like a shortcut to acquire this worldly wisdom. So I really appreciate that about investing, but getting into the specific books now. The first one, and real quick too, as we're, well, I'll actually wait on that. The first book that I want to talk about, guys, is one you've heard me probably talk about numerous times over these years if you've been following the channel. It's Richer, Wiser, Happier by William Green. This is one of the first books that I ever read when I first started getting into investing. And I still think it's one of the best. I still think it's one of my favorites. And I think this is a fantastic book for especially a beginner investor to get into. You know, a lot of times if someone's talking about the best investing books for beginners, you'll see ones like One Up on Wall Street will make that list. That's a really good book. One that's always on that list is The Intelligent Investor by Ben Graham, which is an iconic book. Definitely an iconic investing book, one that should probably be read at some point, but not if you're someone who's just starting out with investing, in my opinion. I think it's a bit dry. The information, it's helpful, but I don't think it's the best book for beginner investors. I think something like this, Richer, Wiser, Happier, is much better. And in case you've never heard of this book, essentially it covers different interviews. The author interviewed all these great investors, people from like Charlie Munger, Monish Pabrai, Guy Spear, Nick Sleep, Howard Marks. Let's see if I'm missing any. Joel Greenblatt. So he interviewed all these great investors, and the book shares the insights, shares his takeaways from these interviews with the investors. And the interviews, they all talked about, you know, the investing process and how to become a successful investor. But in addition to that, in the subtitle of this book is How the World's Greatest Investors Win in Markets and Life. So from each of the chapters, you'll hear from a different investor on how they won at the market, how they became a great investor in their process, but also how they just lived holistically successful lives. And it's pretty interesting. And yeah, it's pretty cool to hear the different insights from these different guys that a lot of us look up to. So I definitely, and it's pretty easy to read as well. It's one of those books that I really had a hard time putting down. Actually, all three of the books we're talking about tonight are like that. I had a hard time putting them down. But this is one I definitely recommend you check out. And by the way, all the links to all these books are in the description of the video as well. So that's number one. Book number two, and I already saw some of you guys mentioned it here in the live chat. And I just finished this one. It's The Snowball. Now, The Snowball by Alice Schroeder is the definitive biography on the man himself. I don't even need to say it. I'll just put it right there. You can see his face. So this is definitely a must read for any investor, I think. And prior to reading Titan, I had gone through this book. They're about, similar length to about 700 pages. This one is a monster. You can see how thick that thing is. But I'll tell you what, guys, it did not feel like it was 700 pages long. This is one of those you will have a really hard time putting down. That was the case for me. I flew through this book. I really, really enjoyed reading it. And, as investors, we all look up to the greatest of all time here. So I think if you're going to be in the game, it really helps to study the best people to do it. And this is one great way to do that. And Alice Schroeder, I believe the author, was a longtime analyst at Berkshire Hathaway. And then at one point she wanted to write a biography on Buffett. And because she'd studied the company for so long, he felt comfortable, I guess, giving her that access to his life. So there's just so many great pieces of information. There's such a great story that you really won't find anywhere else. And so I highly recommend every investor read this book. And I will say too, like, not to ramble too much on this, but I'd say that my biggest takeaway, in addition to all the investing stuff, one of the things you learn most about Warren is just how obsessed he is with investing. And I don't think it's not so much about the pursuit of money, although that's part of it, but he just loves the game. He just loves doing it. And that obsession, you learn as you read, like it was not without its downsides. Like the success he has in investing and being the best at what he does came at the expense of some pretty important relationships. And really, he just really overall has not led a super balanced life, it seems, according to this. And so I think it was a good lesson too. I think there's some good takeaway in that aspect as well. But anyway, I don't want to ramble too much on that. But anyway, this third book, guys, is another one that I know you've definitely heard of. This is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. And I think out of these three books, if I had to pick just one to start with, and I know a lot of, actually, Show of hands real quick in the live chat here. How many of you guys have already read this book? Let me know real quick in the live chat if you've already read this. I bet at least a handful of you guys have already read Psychology of Money. In case you haven't, though, and in case you're someone who's just getting started with investing or just starting to get interested in your personal financial situation, wanting to better it, this is the place to start. Essentially, this book is a collection of short stories that talk about and tell you all the strange ways that people think about money. Okay, and it helps you to really think more rationally and make better decisions as it pertains to your financial situation. It helps you just to think about money in a more rational and reasonable way. We often talk about, especially in this space, we talk about this stuff not really being taught in school. We don't really learn about investing. We don't learn about finance. We don't learn about taxes or anything like that in school. And a lot of us feel that's just a huge disservice to so many, especially considering how, I don't want to say bad people are with money, but kind of, I don't know, I guess for lack of a better term, or just don't really know how to invest, don't really know how to have a healthy financial situation, I suppose. Well, not really great terms for it, I know, but you guys know what I'm trying to say. And I think this book is really like a solid cure-all for a lot of that stuff. I really think this will be a huge eye-opener for a lot of people who don't have any financial background, any knowledge on any of this stuff. So I think it's a really great place to start for, any investor or anyone who wants to, I guess, just better their financial situation. So those are the 3 books that I think are absolute must reads for 2024 and beyond. And I want to throw a bonus one in there. I don't know why I didn't include this in my initial list. Right before we went live, I was thinking, I need to talk about this book. And I always do. So I apologize. You've heard me talk about it before. This one is Warren Buffett and the Interpretation of Financial Statements. Every investor needs to buy a copy of this book. It is such a helpful resource. So essentially this book, guys, and once again, I apologize because I've talked about it so many times. This book essentially goes line item by line item down the 3 different financial statements: the income statement, the balance sheet, and the statement of cash flows. And it'll tell you what each thing means: the revenue, the cost of goods sold, the operating profit, the, pretty much everything. And so it'll tell you what it is, how to look at it, and also give you some insight as how to Warren might look at these different figures and use them to identify some sort of durable competitive advantage in a business. But it's a very simple thing to read. And I personally read a chapter of it every day. I've read this book, went through it once. I'm now going through it for a second time. But yeah, I highly recommend everyone get a copy of this book. You can read a chapter in like 3 minutes a day. So it's one of those you can just flip through every single day. Just once again, chipping away at it, becoming a little bit wiser every day. If you don't have a lot of time to spare to read, but still want to, maybe advance a little bit in this department, this is the book to buy because it's such an easy thing to commit to. Three minutes for a chapter, and you get to learn about how to analyze financial statements. And personally speaking, like I said, I'm going through this once again, and I'll probably continue to do so. Go start to finish, restart from the top, just so the information stays fresh. But those are the 3, I guess, 4 books that I think are must reads for investors. Those are ones you should definitely have on your reading list this year and any year. And I've got a huge stack of other books here that I want to show you guys too. This is my reading list for this year. Got a ton of books for Christmas. So I want to show you them just briefly. But before I do, I want to put it back on you guys and ask you real quick, what are your favorite investing books? Okay, which ones do you like? Which ones have you found to be the most helpful and interesting? And also, what's on your reading list for this year? Are you guys in the middle of anything good right now, or are you about to be, about to crack open something good? Let me know what's on your reading list for 2024. I want to hear about it. I'm going to take a beat real quick and go through the live chat and just see what you guys have to say. And then I'll show you just real quick my reading list for this year. So, and also, if you read the newsletter from this week that came out this morning, keep thinking it's Friday. Feels like Friday, right? Since we're doing the stream. But if you guys got the email, the newsletter this morning, you'll already be familiar with this stack because I included a picture of it. And if you want to check that out real quick, you want a spoiler there, the link to the newsletter articles in the description of the video. So check that out. Let's see. I'm going to scroll up a little bit in the chat. There we go. Kevin said, Ryan, I finished my master's degree a few weeks ago, and developed a list of 25 investing books to read in 2024 and 2025. Looking forward to continue growing as an investor. Yeah, that's awesome. Congrats, Kevin. That's huge, man. And I think I don't know if you shared the list already in the Discord group, but I know you guys were talking about it in there. So I need to take a scroll through that and see if you shared your list there. But yeah, actually I did see that. I did see it. I think some of those I had on my list, but I'll go check it out again. Because I'd love to see what you're about to dive into, what you got on your list there. Let's see. Keep going. Yeah, Andy here says, my all-time favorite book is Security Analysis by Ben Graham and David Dodd, written in 1934. It's the ultimate brain freeze. These two guys were Warren Buffett's mentors. Yeah. I've heard, and I don't know because I haven't read Security Analysis, but I've heard that Security Analysis was like, or excuse me, I've heard the Intelligent Investor is kind of like a dumbed down version of Security Analysis. I could have that wrong, but I remember hearing that from a few different places. So Zach here says, I just bought The Intelligent Investor and The Richest Man in Babylon. What book should I read next? I'm still a beginner. So good luck. I mean, give The Intelligent Investor a shot, see how it sticks. I know for me, when I read it as someone who was just starting out with investing, man, it was way over my head. Yeah, it was really dry. It was really hard for me to get through. And I probably should revisit it at some point soon. But I read it in my first year of investing, and truth be told, I did not understand a lot of it. So let me know how it goes with that one. Let me know how that one goes for you, though. I mean, but Richest Man in Babylon's a really solid book. Which one should you read next? I would start with any of the three that I mentioned, any of the four that I mentioned, actually. This one really doesn't count because it's like you can read this along with any other book. But if you want a book that you can sit down and read for, 20, 30 minutes at a time, this one right here, Richer, Wiser, Happier by William Green. Once again, there's links to all these in the description of the video. Psychology and Money, definitely a must read. If you're just getting started with investing, maybe go with this bad boy, this one or Richer, Wiser, Happier. But if you're looking for something with a little more meat on it, the Snowball. So all three are good. Highly recommend all of them. I'll show you guys my reading list in just a moment. I see Burn Survivor here says, The Education of a Value Investor by Guy Spear. That seems good so far. That's a fantastic book. So Guy Spear and William Green are actually really good friends. And William helped Guy edit that video, or helped Guy edit his book. So kind of a fun little fact there. Yeah, Jonah says, I need to learn how to read first. I get you, man. Now put it together. What does that spell? Cat. There you go. Travis here says, yo, I made a Dividend happy hour. What a great feeling. I'm always missing them due to work. Welcome aboard, my friend. I'm stoked to see you here in the chat tonight. Yeah. So, and I'm sorry too, guys, if you're still watching or if you're just now hopping in, realizing there's a stream on a Thursday night. I'm not around tomorrow. So I had to bump up the stream to tonight. So that's why we're doing it on Thursday night. But next week, we'll be back to Friday. Oh, this is a good one from what I hear. Beating the Street, which is another, right? Yeah, that's another Peter Lynch book, I think. Yeah. And I don't remember which one came first, Beating the Street or One Up on Wall Street. Last Man Standing. I'm not familiar with that book, though. Let's see. Sam here. Happy New Year, my friend. Good to see you tonight. Yeah, Lucas says, Ryan, did you make a new buy? Yes, Lucas, don't spoil it. I was hoping no one was going to bring it up. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything yet. I'll talk about it sometime soon. Let's see here. Kevin says, reading Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Very thought-provoking book, but not an easy read. Yeah, I've heard that's a classic from what I know. I'll have to add that to the reading list. Mark says, A Random Walk Down Wall Street was a good read. Yeah, I've heard that one's really good as well. There are so many, there's just so many good books out there. I feel like I've read a lot of books over these last few years, more this year than any year prior. But man, as far as investing books, in classic investing books, I feel like I've barely scratched the surface. And going back to Warren and Charlie, like I said, they're voracious readers. They set aside so much time every day to just read and think and really speak a lot about how that's helped them in their investing journeys and how they've become better investors just by doing that. Um, and I kind of meant to say this earlier too, but we're always so caught up in doing and constantly doing and moving on to the next thing that we don't really we live in such a fast-paced world, I guess is what I'm trying to say, that it's becoming harder to just slow down and collect your thoughts and think for a moment and really sift through things. And it's cool that they allow themselves the opportunity to do that. And that's something that I, going into this year, especially after reading so much from those guys. This last year, I spent a lot of time trying to learn from them in any capacity, reading the biography. I have Poor Charlie's Almanac as well, listening to the annual shareholder meetings, um, reading the annual shareholder letters. I've just really tried to soak up a lot of the information from those guys, and that's been a huge takeaway for me. Is just how much time they dedicate to think. And I guess as Napoleon Hill put it, think and grow rich. So, but it's we don't all have that luxury, I guess. You know what I mean? So, um, I don't know. But anyway, let me scroll up here in the chat, see if I miss anything crazy. I see Jeremiah here for the first time in the happy hour. Glad to see you, my friend. But I want to show you guys my let's see. Yeah, I want to show you guys my reading list for 2024. So I think I mentioned it earlier, but Santa was good to me this year, guys. I pretty much just asked for books for Christmas. Oh, hold on. I pretty much just asked for books for Christmas, and Santa delivered, and I'm very thankful for that. But it's definitely going to keep me busy. I have a stack here of 6 different books, as you can see. These are all the ones that I'm going to try and go through this year. And I'll just start at the top. Okay, so first and foremost, we have Onward by Howard Schultz. And I think this one might be first on my list. I think this might be the first one I'm going to dive into. But this book basically details Howard's return to Starbucks as CEO in 2008. He came back to the company in the midst of the great financial crisis to try and steer the ship in the right direction, and then stayed at the helm for a period of time, and then left and came back. But I just figure, Starbucks is a pretty huge position of mine, and it's a company that I'm really excited about. I really like this company, and so I think I'll be able to learn a lot by reading about it from the guy who built it. So I think this is really going to be a really interesting book to read. I'm excited to dive into it. And the second book right here, guys, kind of along the same lines a little bit. It's like the Visa version of it. This is a book, One from Many by D. Hawk. And D. Hawk was maybe not technically, but basically was the founder of Visa. He's the guy who really brought it to life. And so, as you guys know, Visa is a company that I've been really diving into lately. It's one I've been getting really excited about. And so kind of along the same lines as Starbucks, I just figured that this would be a really good resource to learn more about the company and just get more inside the mind of the guy who put it all together. And from what I hear, he was a pretty big personality. So a pretty unique guy. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us. I think he passed away. Double check that. I'm pretty dang sure he passed away, but let me see. Okay, yeah, he passed away in 2022. But anyway, I'm really excited to dive into that book. That one is number 2. Number 3 is the book Same as Ever here by Morgan Housel, which is the author of Psychology and Money. This is his second book. It's a follow-up to, not really a follow-up, but anyway, same author. And essentially what this book is about, I'll read you the subtitle. So it's Same as Ever, A Guide to What Never Changes. And so I guess kind of in a similar fashion is the Psychology of Money. It's a lot about behavioral finance. That's pretty much what he specializes in. And so I don't exactly know what's going to happen in this book, but I'm guessing it will cover different events and how like major financial events from the Great Depression to the financial crisis to whatever else happened in between. And we'll compare and contrast people's responses to those crises and the different movements of the market to help illustrate just what doesn't change, what doesn't change about human nature. History maybe doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And I think that's the whole premise of this. It's like there's a lot of parallels in how humans behave and react to things throughout history. And so this will kind of illustrate that. And then this next book right here, guys, I actually heard about from Morgan Housel. This book is called The Great Depression, A Diary by Benjamin Roth. And Benjamin Roth was a lawyer in like I don't know, some small town in Ohio. And the book is exactly what it sounds like. It's his diary from the Great Depression. And I don't know if you guys can see this, but each little paragraph there is just an entry in his diary. And like I said, I heard about this from Morgan Housel. When he was promoting his newest book, he was really making the rounds. He was on different YouTube channels. He was on so many different podcasts. And every thing that I listened to or watched him on, he would always bring up this book. And what he noticed, and I think this was an inspiration, one of the key pieces of inspiration for Same as Ever, one of the things he noticed is that how people were reacting and the things that they were doing during the Great Depression, from what he read in this book, were like, he says, just replace the year, just replace 1929, 1930, whatever, to replace it with 2007, 2008, 2009, and you wouldn't even know the difference. And so it's just all based on, human behavior and how it doesn't change. And so I think that'll be a really interesting thing to study. I'm excited to dive into that book. I think it'll be a pretty easy one to get through too. So anyway, this next book, guys, is, and I'm sure actually a lot of you guys have read this book. This one is Investing for Growth by Terry Smith. And Terry is the founder and chief investment officer of Fundsmith. I almost said Fundrise, of Fundsmith. And I actually heard about Terry Smith. The first time I heard about this guy was from Joseph Carlson. And I think Joseph was even talking about this book, but I know he's really influenced by Terry Smith. He put out a few pretty solid videos on the guy, and he seemed like a really interesting guy, I remember. So I wanted to buy this book or get this book. And essentially this book is just his different writings over the last decade or so, from 2010 to 2020. It's all of everything that he's written on the topic of investing. So I'm excited to dive into this one. It really doesn't seem like it's going to be a difficult one to read either. I think that each chapters maybe, let's look. Each chapter it's really like only a few pages, 3 pages here, 7 pages there, 2 pages in another place. So I think this will be a really easy one to get through. And I kind of like throwing books like this into the mix, where the chapters are really short, because, I can spend kind of like the financial statements book. I can spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes going through a chapter a day and read that in conjunction with something like, the Visa book or the Starbucks book. So I think I could kind of do them both simultaneously. But anyway, guys, this brings us to the last book. And this one, I don't know. We're going to see how this one goes. This one is Deals from Heck. Okay. M&A lessons that rise above the ashes. So, and essentially what this book is about, guys, it just studies different mergers, different acquisitions by companies over the years, talks about the good ones, talks about the bad ones. And my hope from reading this book is that it will help me develop a better understanding of what to look for when companies are making acquisitions, when they're merging, when they're taking those sort of actions. And hopefully I can better identify what's going to make it a good one, what's going to make it a bad one. So we'll see what happens. Let's see if I can give you some examples of what some of the ones that it covers, because there's quite a few in here. This is actually a pretty thick book, but I think the words on the page are kind of big, so it's probably not as hefty as it seems. Okay, so we've got, here we go. 1989, the acquisition of Columbia Pictures by Sony Corporation. We've got 1991, the acquisition of NCR Corporation by AT&T. We've got 1994, the acquisition of Snapple by Quaker Oats. We've got 2001, the merger of AOL and Time Warner. Let's see if we can, maybe there's another one here. No, those are kind of the chapters, but I think that they talk about more in between. Like each chapter, they might cover a bad one of the bad deals, and then maybe look at a similar situation where it actually worked out. So I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. Out of all the books that are on this list, the ones that we just went through, that's the one to me that seems the most like textbookish. So I don't know. I have high hopes for it, but I'm not anticipating it'll be a super, exhilarating book. But we'll see what happens. I think it'll be useful information anyway, and I'll keep you guys posted too. But let me see. What did I miss in the chat? Because I went through went on quite a tangent there. So. Yeah. So Shamir says Russ doing vids on reading the Buffett letters is also out there on his channel. Yeah. And Russ is actually the one who first introduced me, or well, basically first told me that all the shareholder meetings and all the shareholder letters are out there. So Russ knows his stuff, guys. There we go. Jonas says, Ryan, I'm still planning on coming to Vegas sometime this year to get fajitas with you. I love that. Yeah, definitely let me know, man. That'd be cool to get together. So be awesome. Okay, this is good to know. Teresa says, Onward is basically an infomercial for Starbucks, in my opinion. And that doesn't, that doesn't really surprise me considering Howard wrote it himself. It doesn't really surprise me. He's a little bit biased towards the company. So I could see that. Let's see here. Yeah, Jim says Guy Spears, The Education of a Value Investor, was one of the best books on investing I've ever read. I agree. I think that was a really, really good book, and I'd highly recommend that to everyone as well. And that's the thing too. When putting together this short list of must-read investing books, there's still so many that could have made this list that did not, right? So I think The Education of a Value Investor could have definitely been on there. One Up on Wall Street could have been on there too. Although I do remember reading that one when I was pretty early on in my investing journey, and also remember a lot of that being a bit over my head, but that could have just been me. Would not surprise me. Let's see. Aaliyah says Secrets of the Millionaire Mindset is a good one too. I haven't heard of that one. Let me see. Secrets of the Millionaire Mindset. And also, guys, we've got about 15 minutes left in the stream. It's free for all right now. Let's see what else we got to talk about. Okay, Ecker T. Harv. T. Harv Ecker is the author. Okay. I hadn't heard of this one. I'll keep it on the list. Terry Smith is solid. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Jim says Buffettology. Yeah, I have. Oh no, I have the Tao of Warren Buffett, not Buffettology. Random Walk Down Wall Street, Warren Buffett Way, and The Real Warren Buffett. Yeah. Okay. Those can be found online. Oh, Kevin says, after seeing the books you got for Christmas, my book list is growing. Those look awesome. Guys, real quick, I'll circle back to this thought in a second. I just want to say hi to Sia. I'm definitely a reader. I follow your channel first time here. Thank you for tuning into the stream tonight. I really appreciate it, and I'm happy you tuned in. But something I've been thinking about, and I have talked to Russ, and I've talked to Harris about this before too, is starting some sort of book club, because I know Russ is a big reader. He's actually a big audiobook listener. I think Harris is getting into it as well. But yeah, we talk about from time to time starting some sort of book club, and it seems like there's a lot of readers here in the community. So in some way, shape, or form, and I don't know exactly what this would look like, but would that be something you guys would be interested in partaking in? And once again, I'm not quite sure how we'd facilitate that and what that would look like. But like the shape of the idea, does that intrigue you guys at all? Let me know in the chat here. And Ruby and David, I know you had a couple questions for me. If you're still watching, I'd love to answer those questions for you. So let me scroll up here. I want to see what you guys have to say about, book club. Sounds like a good idea. B still says, how about you write a book? You know what, my friend? I still have, that's a nice thing to say, but all of us get together and write a book. And I think that the two guys would agree with me on this, but I think we still have so much to learn, and we still have so much to experience before we even entertain that idea. I think we are the last people at this point that should write a book. I think at this point, we're better off just continuing to develop the skill set and get better at the craft. I think we still have a long ways to go. So, and I shouldn't speak for the other guys, but that's how I feel personally. So, Andy, definitely interested in the book club. Lucas, yeah, interested. Nathan, interested. Yeah, there we go. A book club would be awesome, with a live stream of you three chatting about it after a set time period for everyone to read. Yeah, that'd be cool. It'd be cool to do like, I think about it like getting together maybe once every couple weeks, or maybe even once a month to discuss a book. Um, that'd be kind of fun, and have everyone read it, read along with us, and have some sort of chat where we're sharing book notes or quotes or stuff along the way leading up to the stream or the conversation. Hmm. Andy says, "I'm actually. Are you? Is this real or are you yanking my chain here? I'm actually writing a book. It's called The Emotional Investor. There you go." Shamir says, "I'll do a George Costanza and watch the movie version for book club." There you go. I think that'll work real well with The Intelligent Investor. Yeah, Kevin says, intriguing. I'm not sure how to pull it off on a large scale. I'm not either. I'm not sure either. I have to think through it a bit more and figure out the best way to facilitate something like that. But I like the idea. I think that there'd be a lot of interest in that. I think it'd be a fun way to get people more into reading and just be another fun thing that we can talk about and do together. So yeah. Oh, El Dynamico. Yeah. So I'm actually glad you brought this one up. Creature from The Creature from Jekyll Island, he's heard was a good read. I actually just added that one to my reading list the other day. That seems like a very, very interesting book. So um let's see. Hunter says, this is a good question. Have you considered the potential growth and investment opportunities in having long dated treasuries in your brokerage, like TLT? It has a nice dividend and upside. I have not really considered that because it's not something that I really know too much about. I think for now, I think for now I feel the most comfortable just sticking to stocks and sticking to these type of equities and investing in businesses. And yeah, I think for now that's going to suit my needs. And from a long-term perspective, I think that'll be good for me. But at some point, I probably should explore some other things like treasuries and if nothing else, and even bonds, if nothing else, just to really learn more about them, and even crypto. I don't really have any plans to invest in any of these things, but just to learn more about them, I guess. Yeah. So, Andy said, "I'll send you the chapter on understanding your emotions as a dividend investor." Yeah, okay, it is real. So, I'd be definitely would be curious to read that. Yeah, please send that to me. I'd love to check that out. So, what else? I feel like there's something else I was gonna share with you guys. Let's see. See what else we got here. Okay, Ruby and David, you are still here. You're still here. Okay. Ah, there we go. I've read The Creature from Jekyll Island. It is long but well worth the read. It gives the history of how the Fed and central bank was created in the cloak of darkness. Ooh, very spooky. I'll show you guys. I'm gonna pull up my Amazon reading list. Yeah, I think integrating Discord for a book club might be the way to go. Could be. Yeah, starting a book club via Zoom. There we go. Yeah, I'll think more about it, and I'll talk more with the guys about it too. But it's good to know that you guys are interested. I think it could be fun. There's got to be some way to make that happen. But anyway, I want to show you guys all the books that are still on my reading list. But before we get to that, I gotta shout out Jonah real quick. No message, just a quick $5 super chat from my man here. Jonah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you doing that. That's super nice. Let me go over here to Amazon here. There you go. That Ryan does this for a living. I do, and I'm gonna circle back on this in just a moment because one second. I keep getting distracted. Okay, this is what the Amazon reading list is looking like. So these are all the ones that I have yet to buy, have yet to read, but these are, once I get through everything that I physically have, these are the options, and I'm adding to it all the time, guys. And it's quite the mixture here. So, Fooled by Randomness. I heard about this book I was listening to. I think it's a pretty popular book. I don't know much about it, but I heard Howard Marks talking about it. And Howard Marks also had a conversation with this lady, Annie Duke, who used to be a professional poker player. And this book here, Thinking in Bets. I also think she's a pretty big investor now. But there's a lot of parallels between investing and playing poker and blackjack and bridge even. Warren, Charlie, and Monish Pabrai talk about that a lot. Most of it has to do with I think a lot of it has to do with statistics, but this book goes into that a bit more. So I'm anxious to read that. And I don't even know if I'll end up reading a lot of these books. These are ones that I'm kind of just like, I've heard about them, and so I just don't want to forget about them just in case. The 5 rules for successful stock investing. I actually don't know. I don't know why I put this on the list. I don't know where I heard about this book, but and it's okay. We'll leave it on there. Crazy Rich: Power, Scandal, and Tragedy Inside the Johnson & Johnson Dynasty. As a Johnson & Johnson shareholder, I figured this one would be an interesting one to go into. We got The Creature from Jekyll Island. We just talked about that. The Little Book That Still Beats the Market by Joel Greenblatt. This is a classic. This one right here, The Kingdom of Prep, The Story of J. Crew. I don't know if I'll end up reading this book, but it just kind of sounded like an interesting one to me. I like J. Crew. It's a brand that I like, and it's in terms of fashion, in terms of retail, it's been around for a long time. So it's kind of curious to learn a little bit more about it. We also have The Tao of Charlie Munger, which is pretty much the Charlie Munger version of The Tao of Warren Buffett. It's just different quotes broken down, different Munger quotes broken down. We got a few Thomas Sowell and Milton Friedman books here: Basic Economics, Capitalism and Freedom, Free to Choose. I don't know. I figured these would be interesting ones to go through. F Wall Street. I don't know much about this book, and I don't remember where I heard about it, but it seemed like an interesting one. What I learned about investing in Darwin. I guess I don't really need to like read the titles out to you guys. You can just see it all on the screen. I'm just going to scroll through them, right? I will talk about this one though. 100 Baggers by Christopher Mayer. I did read another one of his books actually. This is a new one that just came out from him. How Do You Know? A guide to thinking clear about Wall Street, investing, in life. I'll be honest, I really didn't enjoy reading this book that much, but I don't know. Give it a shot. They can't all be winners. But 100 Baggers, I have higher hopes for that one. I've heard really good things about that book, but yeah, I didn't particularly enjoy this other one. I've heard really good things about The Joys of Compounding, Simple Path to Wealth. I said I was going to stop doing this. Sorry. I'll just keep scrolling. You guys can see all the titles here, but it's a very extensive list. I know Warren Buffett is a big fan of this book right here, Outsiders: 8 Unconventional CEOs and Their Radically Rational Blueprint for Success. I know he's a big fan of that one. I think Charlie Munger's a fan of this book here, Against the Odds. Yeah, this seemed kind of like an interesting one as well. Russ told me about this book, Where the Money Is: Value Investing in the Digital Age. He read this book and I think really enjoyed it. Only the Paranoid Survive. That's from Andy Grove from Intel. Talks about Intel. Let's keep going here. One of you guys in the audience keeps bringing this lady up to me, this Geraldine Weiss. And she has a couple of books that supposedly are pretty iconic dividend investing books. So I added them to the list. This one right here, Dividends Don't Lie, from what I've seen, is pretty hard to find, but we'll see. Maybe I'll get around to reading them at some point. When Genius Failed by Roger Lowenstein, guys. So Roger Lowenstein also wrote a biography on Warren Buffett. And prior to reading the Snowball, I read his biography, and I really enjoyed that. And so I really liked his style of writing, so I figured I might as well check out some of his other work. So I have this one on the list as well. And we're almost to the bottom of the list, guys. But you can see there's a lot of different stuff in here. Most of it investing. Some of it is like some inside baseball on companies that I want to know more about, like this Coca-Cola one, the Walmart effect. And I have a couple other ones that I'm actually pretty excited about. I'm really interested in the history of Las Vegas and how the mob founded Vegas and stuff like that. So I have a couple books on here to learn more about that. And here's a couple that Jim was talking about. Warren Buffett Way. I think you talked about this one as well, Jim. I don't remember. I think you talked about this one as well, the Warren Buffett Portfolio. So, and I'm sure a lot of these books, guys, you'll be familiar with them. Wealth of Nations, that's supposed to be a classic. I've heard that one is really hard to get through too, because it was written so long ago. Just the language is so different. So kind of like, reading Shakespeare is a little bit tricky. Let's keep going here. I'm really excited about this one, The Dondo Investor by Monish Pabrai. I'm excited to get into that one. And then Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I have not read that yet, but I I do have an appreciation for stoicism, and I do watch a lot of the Daily Stoic channel. And so at some point, I'd like to get meditations and dive a little bit deeper into that stuff. But there's just bigger fish to fry. There's so many other books to read, guys. Um, but dang it, Blaze. Thank you for saying this, but man, you spoiled it, man. I wasn't planning on talking about it till next week, but it's true, guys. I did. I'm not going to say anything more on the subject, but I did do this. I'll talk about it more next Wednesday's video. I'll tease it a little bit on Sunday, but I'll talk about it more next week. That did happen. I'm doing a whole video on it. So, Jim, if we have a book club, will we be tested at the end? Perhaps. That'd be kind of interesting, huh? Yeah, go hard, brother. I remember reading Shakespeare in 9th grade. It nearly killed me. I remember too. I remember sophomore year, 10th grade, having to remember actually, no, it was 9th grade, reading Romeo and Juliet, having to remember like a certain part, and then we had to recite it in front of the class. And mine was the classic, like, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Deny thy father and refuse thy name, yada, yada, yada. I don't remember the in-between stuff, but I remember it ended, or if thou wilt not, be but sworn my love, and I will no longer be a Capulet. That's all I remember about it. But yeah, going back here to what Jonah was saying with the super chat, doing it for a living. Jeremiah says, Ryan, you're living the dream, man. Dude, guys, I truly am. I seriously feel so fortunate to be able to do this for a living. I've been doing it for full time for a year and some change now, coming up on a year and a quarter at the end of this month. And I truly just feel so fortunate. And I only have you guys to thank for that. So from the bottom of my heart, sincerely. And I say this all the time, and I don't mean to get too cheesy with it or too sentimental about it, but it really is such a blessing. So, and I'm extremely fortunate. But thank you guys. That's really what I wanted to say. There we go. What's this say? Oh, A2, Kevin. Sorry, Ryan, my bad. Oh, Blaze, it's okay. Like, I'm just giving you a hard time. It's not a big deal. I've put it out there pretty much talking about Visa. I put it out there pretty much everywhere else besides on YouTube. I was saving that for last. I've already talked about it on GetQuinn, which, by the way, guys, if you want to track your portfolio for free using GetQuinn, I started using it about a month and a half ago. Really enjoy it. There's a link to check it out in the description, and you can see my portfolio in full, all my trades, everything like that. I've already talked about it in my newsletter this morning. I've talked about it on Blossom. So I've pretty much shared it everywhere else except for here on YouTube. Oh, there we go, Jonah. Let's all chip in and buy Ryan his first share of Broadcom. Man, it will take quite a few super chats to get me to that first share of Broadcom. But yeah, what else we got, guys? I mean, it's 6:01. I'm having fun. Why don't we keep it going for another few minutes? So, and I haven't finished my Sprite yet. I love Sprite. I really like, I've been really enjoying drinking Coke Zero lately, but I don't always want the caffeine, and Sprite's I've always really loved Sprite. So I'm happy to have it at the house. What else we got? Maybe there's something else I can show you guys. Let's see. Yeah, I guess we did go through purchases earlier and stuff like that. Oh, Shamir says, buy Ryan his first share of Chipotle. Let's set up a GoFundMe. Dude, I'll tell you what. Yeah, if, as you guys know, I'm a diehard dividend investor. In my portfolio, only have companies that pay dividends. But if I were to stray from that at any point, which never say never, right? Never say never. I don't want to be super dogmatic about anything. And I want to keep an open mind. It's very possible that at some point I see a company that I just can't resist that doesn't pay a dividend. I don't know. But nonetheless, dividends are always going to have my heart. But what I'm trying to say is, hypothetically, if I was to buy a company that doesn't pay a dividend, Chipotle would be at the top of the list. It would be right there at the top. Chipotle, I think Spotify would be on that list as well for me. Trying to think of some other ones. I'd like to say Adobe would be on there. Google would probably be on there as well. But those are the few that come to mind, the non-dividend payers that, if I had to throw some of those in the portfolio, those would be the ones I'd look at first. So, um, there we go. Kevin, this is a good question. How about Walgreens dividend cut? Did you cover it already? No, I did. I briefly talked about it at the beginning, but let's take a look at Walgreens dividend. So for those, for those of you guys who don't know, Walgreens Boots Alliance reduced their dividend by almost 50% today. We'll take a look at that. Take a look at the news real quick so we can see there's a lot of news coming out on Walgreens today. So right here, Walgreens Boots Alliance almost halves dividend to 25 cents. So they decreased it about 48 cents down from, or excuse me, they decreased it 48% from 48 cents down to now 25 cents. So they cut that bad boy nearly in half. And truth be told, it's really not much of a surprise. I talked about it in a video a few weeks ago now, in that video that was like 3 stocks you'll regret buying. I actually referenced Walgreens as one of those, as being what I in the video referred to as a value trap, a stock that's very cheap. I mean, we can see that's been the case with Walgreens. It's down 35.33% in the last year. Over the last 5 years, it's down a whopping 65%. And it's right now, it's not even sitting at its 52-week low. It's been even lower in the last year. But so anyway, I talked about Walgreens as being one of these companies that it looks very cheap. I mean, the PE ratio is 7.7, which is very low, but the juice is not really worth the squeeze here. I mean, you're getting a cheap company, but one that doesn't appear to be going anywhere too fast. I mean, the sales are increasing, which is nice. Actually, the sales, I will admit, do look pretty good. They saw a pretty big, actually, really big decline from 2018 to 2019, but otherwise, I'd say it's been pretty decent, right? 2014 to 2015 was a pretty big jump. But anyway, long story short, this sales trend is not too bad. It's not as bad as I had thought it was from what I remembered. But the thing about this, if we go over to look at the these numbers as a percent of revenue, looking at the margins over time, as we go down the income statement, the margins in each department, the gross profit margin, the operating margin, the net income margin, it's all pretty much gone down over time. So gross profit about 10 years ago, we're looking, 28%, 25%. And you can see that over time, this number is slowly getting lower and lower and lower. And they've lost about 10% in their gross profit margin over the last decade. Operating income has seen a very similar trend, going from about 5%, 5.5%, upper fours, all the way down to not even breaking 1.5%. So profitability is diminishing over time with this company. And the same is true on a net income basis. I think last time I looked in the video, both of these numbers were negative, but this has been going down over time as well. The net income margin has been going down. The earnings per share is not looking that great either. While this is going on, looking at the balance sheet, this company's taken on a lot of debt, which isn't necessarily a terrible thing, depending on how they use it and how that's used in the company. But they saw a huge jump in debt without seeing a really meaningful increase in free cash flow. So the debt went from, let's just call it, $9-10 billion a few years ago to jumping to over 40 billion. And they've done a decent job of paying that down since then. They're working on it, so I'll give them that. But at the same time, like I said, there's not really been a meaningful increase in free cash flow. And if we look at that on a per share basis here, the free cash flow has actually been going down per share. If we look at this chart right here, I mean, on an absolute basis, I want this load. There we go. On a per share basis, it's going down. On an absolute basis, the free cash flow is going down as well. So we're getting a huge jump in debt while not seeing any growth in free cash flow, while they're still trying to grow the dividend. And at some point, that just had to come to a head. And apparently that's been the case. So with all of that said, it's not been too surprising to see Walgreens reduce their dividend. What was their payout ratio? If we go back to the income statement, I think the payout ratio was actually pretty okay. But yeah, oh no, I don't know. 2022 was pretty low. Wasn't measured 2023. In the trailing 12 months, it's almost 300%. In 2020, it was almost 400%. But otherwise, it's not been too bad. And I think Russ was talking about Walgreens recently, or maybe we were texting about it this morning, actually. I think we were texting about it, and he sent their free cash flow payout ratio. And let me see if I can pull up the text because it was pretty dang high. So yeah, if we go over to Walgreens, you guys can't see it. I'm talking like you can see it. So from the text in basically in the trailing 12 months, well, let's actually start with 2022. So 2022, according to Simply Safe Dividends, this is what Russ sent over. Walgreens had a free cash flow payout ratio of 76%, which is on the higher end. 2023, their free cash flow payout ratio was almost 1,200%. 1,200%. And then according to this, the next 12 months, the free cash flow payout ratio is going to be 95%. So really not too surprising to see Walgreens make that move, but it'll be a good move from them or for them. So we'll see what happens with the company from there. So, I see. I see Jonah's comment here. Ruby and David, I've been neglecting too many of your questions tonight, and I'm so sorry. I'll answer this one. How many books do you plan to read in 2024? Great question. So I plan to read at least 6. Okay, that's one every 2 months on average. Looking at these books, I can totally do that. Totally do that. And once I get through those, I think I should, or maybe in the midst of some of them, I really should revisit Richer, Wiser, Happier. I really should go through that book again. So I'm going to try and do that. And then I also would like to, these aren't investing books. These aren't investing books. And I don't know if you guys, any of you guys have read either of these books, but these are 2 books by Ayn Rand. I read them in high school and I read them once again, maybe 4 or 5 years ago now. One of them is The Fountainhead and the other one is Atlas Shrugged. These are the exact books I read in high school. So these ones, like the pages are yellowing and stuff like that. I really love these books. I think these are 2 of my favorite books that I've ever read. They're fiction, but they've actually had a pretty big impact on the way that I think. And actually, they were reading these was one of the things that it actually inspired me to start this YouTube channel. So I'd like to go back through these again at some point soon because it's been a while. And if you guys haven't read either of these books, they are very long. Like I think Atlas Shrugged is actually over 1,000 pages. Yeah, it is, at least in this version of it. It's like almost 1,100 pages. But yeah, it's one of my favorite books out there. So six books for sure, maybe 7, maybe 8 to 10 realistically. Jonah here says, as a huge candle salute myself, I have to inquire as to what scent that candle is. So you guys are going to laugh at me. That is peppermint sugar cookie. Yeah. Yeah. And it smells really good. It's almost out. So actually, yeah, it's going to go like one of the wicks is going to be going to go out any moment now. It's really low. Yeah. Let's keep going. So Kevin, I'm glad to see you say this. Altria is fine, but I think Altria is fine too. So Altria historically has a higher payout ratio. I think right now it's hovering at about 80%. That's by design. They've pretty much always done that. A lot of investors see that and get concerned, but for that company in particular, it's normal. 3M is one that was one of the reasons I decided to sell 3M too, because I could see them cutting their dividend at some point as well. So, Ruby and David, this is a good question too. Do you plan to do any mentorship in the future? I haven't really planned on it, but I don't know. Like my line's always open. You guys can always shoot me an email, always message me on Discord. Truthfully, I prefer email. And I prefer not, yeah, probably however, which way you want to get in touch with me, just whatever works for you. How about that? I'll keep it simple. I don't really have any plans to do any mentorship. But like I said, if you ever want to talk about anything, my line's always open for you guys. Always shoot me an email, message me on Discord, whatever you guys need. So I got your back in the same way that you've had mine over these last few years. So, or at least I'll try to. Let's see. Laughing about the candle. This is a good question too from Zach, and we're going to wrap it up in just a moment, guys. We'll go through maybe like one or two comments and we'll wrap it up because I'm getting hungry and I think it's about dinner time. So Zach says, at what age are you planning on retiring, or at what age would you like to? Truth be told, I don't really know. My mindset around this has really changed over this last year. I'd say my mindset about all of this has totally changed. When I first got into dividend investing, and Ruby and David, this is actually kind of ties into your initial question, like what got me into investing. So when I first started investing, guys, I was truthfully, I was really unhappy at the job I was doing. I really did not like it. And when I thought about my future, when I thought about my current livelihood in that situation, I just had a feeling that I was going to be miserable for, however long I had to do that job. So I was motivated to start investing and start creating cash flow, starting creating income to eventually replace that. Because I figured, worst case scenario, it's like I can do this investment thing. I can stack that passive income, and at some point that will get me out of this bad situation. And I know, like, I could have changed jobs, I could have gotten out of that situation. But in my mind, I thought, worst case scenario, let's say, for whatever reason, like I had to stay here for another, being 26, 27, I had to stay here for another however many years, 20 years. Anyway, I was certainly motivated to get out of that job as quick as I could. And for me at the time, like, investing was going to be that way out. I had no plans to do the channel. I had no plans to do this full time. It all just kind of happened. But anyway, with that said, when I first started investing, my plan was just race to financial freedom so I could get out of this bad situation. And I figured I could, if I'm serious about it, if I'm diligent, if I'm consistent, if I am careful with my finances, which is I've always been, I could probably do it in 20 years, crunching the numbers, looking at the dividend calculator, just trying to be realistic. I could probably do it in 20, 25 years. By the time I'm in my mid 40s or late 40s, I could probably be at a place where I can take that plunge, or at least, like, it'll take a lot of the pressure off me there, which, once again, I could have gotten out of that job at any time, whatever. But anyway, I'm just giving you some insight as to how I thought about it at the time. And so then I started the channel, started growing the channel. And fortunately, it got to a point where I was able to quit that job. I was able to get out of that bad situation and do this full time. In the first few months, guys, it was really a struggle. I'm not going to lie. I could basically pay my bills, and that was about it. But it was still better than working that job. I'll tell you what. And I told myself last October, it was actually right as I moved to Vegas, I said, new place, I'll try this out. I'll just give myself the next 3 months, October, November, December. And I've got savings, I've got cash on the side. So I'm good. If I don't make a penny between now and then, I'm still fine, totally fine. But let's see what happens. Let's take a chance. And if I see some good momentum, and if things seem like they're headed in the right direction, then I don't know, I'll keep it going. And sure enough, October, November, December, every single year was better than the last, both in terms of views, channel growth, financially, everything was better. And so I was like, this kind of seems to be working. Maybe we just go another month in January, a year ago. Maybe we just go for another month in January. And then that happened. It was good. What my best month ever, actually. February came along, same exact thing. And so I'm like, okay, well, I don't know. We're just going to keep going then. And that's pretty much been the game plan from then until now. Just kind of, let's just see how long I can keep this going. But Zach, to answer your question, when am I planning on retiring? I'm really not, truth be told. I don't know. Truth be told, in a weird way, I already feel kind of like I'm semi-retired. And don't get me wrong, like, doing this stuff is a lot of hard work. And it is pretty much a full-time job. Like, there's there's days where it might take me, and I'm not exaggerating too, not every video is like this, but there are some times where it might take me 7 or 8 hours just to do a video script. Um, so it is really a full-time job. But with that said, it's still like if I had stayed down the path I was on, stayed in my job or whatever job it was going to be, and if I had taken the traditional route and stayed in that job till I was 45, 50 or whatever, and then retired, I'd probably end up doing something like this anyway. So the things that I'm doing now today are the things that I probably would have done, in retirement to fill my time and have something to work towards, something to pour myself into. So for me, this was probably something like this was going to be that thing for me. And I'm doing it now. So long story short, like I feel like I'm like retired. And what I'm doing now is something that I'd like to do in some capacity for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? And whether it's the channel, the newsletter, whatever else comes along with that, all of the above, some of it, I don't know what's going to happen, but yeah, in a weird way, I feel like I'm semi-retired, and the path I'm on now is one that I plan to hopefully, if you guys will have me, is one that I plan to be on for as long as I can because I truly love doing it. And with that said, too, I've talked about this from time to time, and I don't mean to go on a tangent here, but this is something that I actually am pretty passionate about and am a huge proponent for. A lot of us guys, a lot of you guys have the same goals and the same motivation with starting your portfolio and investing every single week that I did when I was first starting out, wanting to get to leave your job and be able to control your time and just do the things that you want to do without having to answer to anyone, to do things your way, the way that you want to do them. And by the way, that's pretty much the premise of this book, The Fountainhead. So I think you guys might be interested in that. One to check out. But I think for a lot of us, that's the motivation for starting our portfolios and not wanting to, I don't know, have to answer to other people for the rest of our lives. And a lot of us, a lot of you guys love your jobs, I'm sure, and that's fantastic. I think that's such an incredible thing because a lot of people don't. But what I'm trying to say is if you had those same motivations that I did when I was first starting, if you want out of a bad situation, and you've ever thought about doing something like a channel or a newsletter, some sort of something, give it a shot. Seriously, because you really never know what those things can grow into. And instead of waiting 20, 25, 30 years to leave your job and instead of waiting that long for that to happen, something like this can get you there within, like, in a much shorter period of time if you do it right. You know what I mean? And so with that said, and this is obviously, I understand, like, this is not for everyone. Not everyone has the time, has the interest, has the capacity to do a YouTube channel. But man, you could post on Twitter. You could start there and start with one thing and expand it from there. You could start posting on Twitter. You could then leverage that into a newsletter, start making some tweets, which take like minutes, right? You got the time to tweet. And frankly too, if you've got the time to spend the last hour and 20 minutes with me, you can put together a video or you can put together a week of tweets or something like that if you want to. But long story short, if you guys have ever thought about doing something like this, give it a shot because it can get you to, I don't want to call it financial freedom per se, but it can get you probably to the place that you are looking to go. And it can teach you a lot of really valuable things along the way. So tangent over there, but yeah, that's something that I'm really passionate about. And if you guys ever want to, I don't want to say, because I'm not like, I don't know, I'm doing it full time, but there's so many people who have done it in a much greater capacity than I have. But if you guys ever have questions about any of this stuff, I'm an open book. Once again, you can always shoot me an email, message me on Discord. I'm happy to talk about it. And in fact, once you get me started talking about this stuff, it's hard for me to stop. So, let's see, Ruby and David, final question. What are your goals for 2024? So, I've got a few different investing goals or just goals in general. Number one, max out my Roth IRA. Totally doable just based on my weekly contributions. I can definitely do that. By the end of the year, I'll probably be like a few $100s short. So I'll just make up the difference, come December of this year and get that maxed out. So that's goal number one. Goal number 2 is to, oh goodness. Oh yeah, goal number 2 is by the end of the year, I want to reach a projected annual dividend income of $3,000. So coming into 2024, coming into this year, my projected annual income is about like 2,470 with, both my portfolios combined. So we're about like $500, just over $500 away from that. And I definitely think I'll be able to hit that and then some. We'll see what happens, but that's goal number 2. Goal number 3 is to really dial in my stock research process. I talked about this, I think, in last week's Dividend Happy Hour, but I really want to get my stock research process dialed in. And I've been putting together, I was actually working on it today when I was going through Visa some more. I've been working on this dividend database thing, which is going to be pretty much like my start to finish investing stock research checklist. So that'll be really helpful for dialing in that stock research process. And once that's done, I'm gonna share that at some point. I'll share that template with you guys once it's all done, once it's all ready to go. And at some point, I'd love to share the actual research that I do as well when I'm looking into these stocks. Share my full in-depth research as well. And probably some of it's if and when I do that, you'll have to keep in mind, like, I'm no master investor. I don't have any formal education or formal training with this stuff. So when going through like the research or whatever that I'll eventually share, it's the same thing with videos too, right? Or newsletters. It's all, as they say, it's not financial advice. It's whatever. But you'll just have to keep that in mind and still take it with a grain of salt. So Jeremiah says, what was your job? My job was I worked in digital marketing, social media marketing. So when I lived in Sacramento, the agency that I would work for, we would handle all of the social media content, the pictures and the videos for different businesses in the area. And we would also handle their social media profiles. So posting for them on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. And so throughout my duration working with them, I'd pretty much done all of that. There was a period of time where I did all the content, all the pictures and video, and all of the posting. And I'm sorry, guys, my voice is starting to get a little bit hoarse. So I did all of that. And then by the end of it, I had just kind of scaled down to just do the social media posting and do the social media strategy. So that's what I did. So my background's really in social media and digital marketing, stuff like that. So a lot of this YouTube stuff and doing this really, I don't want to say it came naturally to me, but because it was hard and I had to learn a lot. But I'll tell you what, the cool thing about having this channel and having that job is a lot of the things that I was learning from building this channel for myself, I was able to apply to a lot of the clientele and apply the lessons learned. And that made a really positive impact. So I'm really proud of that. Coming from someone who is retired himself, Kevin says, you are retired. Retirement is about doing what you love. I think you're already there. Maybe not, but it's an interesting thought. It is an interesting thought. Yeah, it is a really interesting thought because I don't know if I don't know, when you think of retirement, you think of leaving a career that you spent the last couple of decades building, and I haven't done that. But yeah, I mean, I get to do what I love every day, and I get to, yeah, I don't know. What more could you ask for? I don't know what the term is. I don't know what the right term for is, but whatever it is, like I just want to keep doing it. So Otis, I really appreciate this. I think you're wrong though. I think you're wrong. He said I should be a financial advisor. I have a good personality and a lot of diligence. I really appreciate that, but man, I still have so much to learn. Let's see though, maybe I just have so much to learn. I really do. And I don't know where this journey is going to take me, but maybe 10 years, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, 25 years from now, 25 years from now, I'll be 55. At that point, I bet hopefully I'll be so much more experienced and so much knowledgeable with this stuff then, that maybe I'd consider something like that, but I'm nowhere near ready to take that on now. Nowhere near it, but I appreciate the compliment. And that's really nice of you. So, yeah. Otis says, don't retire or you'll end up lazy and fat from eating sugar cookies all day. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Um, let's see. Um, yeah. You guys have some good comments. I appreciate you guys so much. I really do. Yeah. Well, thank you guys. I'm just reading these comments. It really makes my day. See, here's to you guys. Cheers to you guys. There we go. Eric says, become a professor at SNHU. I should do that. I've paid them enough lip service. They should at least give me like an assistant professor job. Maybe I'll go teach with Nolan. I'll go teach with Professor G. Maybe I can be his like understudy or something. Um, guys, I'm having too much fun with this stream. My fiance is probably not too happy with me right now, but I'm really having fun tonight. We'll go in just a moment. I'm having fun. Zach says, what? Dexter. There you go. What camera are you using? So I am using the Sony a7 III, and I've got a Sigma 20 millimeter lens on this bad boy, 20 millimeter art lens. Yeah. So Sony a7 III. It's been a really good one. B still, what do you like about Johnson and Johnson? That's a really good question. I mean, Johnson and Johnson, and truth be told, on the subject of J&J, I'd like at some point to do a more in-depth video on them. And looking at my whiteboard over there, that's one of the companies, that's like one of the next ones that I really want to do a deep dive into. Really come to understand the company better and their pipeline of products and stuff like that. I think it was a little bit easier for me to, I don't want to say wrap my head around it, but I guess so. When they had the Kenvue products, right? When they had the Band-Aid and the Tylenol, because I felt you're kind of getting a lot of everything. You're getting the pharmaceuticals, you're getting the medical devices, you're getting the consumer staples products, or the consumer brands. So that was initially what I really liked about J&J. It just seemed like a juggernaut in all three departments, and I really need to study up more on their pipeline of products, to be honest with you. But I like that the company is. I like the track record. Oh, I shouldn't say that. When it comes to Johnson and Johnson, I really like the stability that the company offers. They've been in existence for a long, long time since the 1800s. So it is one of those legendary companies. It is a dividend king, obviously. And so more than anything, I'd say I like the stability and the consistent, stable growth that they have to offer for such a mature company that's been around for a long time. They're still seeing some growth. It's not super aggressive. It's not like the same level of growth we're seeing with something like Costco or Visa or, name some other companies, obviously, but it's steady growth, and it's one of those sleep well at night stocks. But and I think the financials are looking pretty good too. I mean, let me just pull them up here. I will say one of my shortcomings when it comes to J&J is understanding their portfolio of pharmaceuticals. But from my understanding, they're still a juggernaut in that department, and they're still a juggernaut in terms of medical devices. So they still do have a lot to offer in the industry. They're still one of the biggest, if not the biggest company in the industry. But looking at all this stuff, I mean, sales are still going up, profits still growing up. I think they're actually, I mean, margins are steady. Actually, I was going to say they're expanding over time. Margins are steady. Operating margins steady as well. Net income margin's actually been going up in some cases over time. So that's good to see. But in short, two things. In short, Johnson & Johnson is like a very sleep well at night stock, number one. But number two, if I'm being honest with you, it's one that I really need to revisit and do a deep dive into. And that's where something like my dividend database is going to come into handy because, and I said this last week, I think when we were going through it, it's going to keep me honest. I bought Johnson & Johnson when it was like one of the first companies that I bought when I started investing. And going through this company from start to finish using my database, I'll be able to answer this question much better for you next time around, because it's going to force me to understand the history of the company, how they make their money, their portfolio of products, them really compared to their competitors, which is something that I haven't done since I started buying into the company. So I really owe it a visit. owe it a revisit and owe it a deep dive. And the same is true with a lot of the companies in my portfolio. And that's another one of my goals, I suppose, for 2024 is to go through a lot of the companies I own and revisit them and spend time doing these deeper dives onto them versus just, reading some Morningstar articles or reading some Seeking Alpha articles and deciding, it's probably good enough. The yield's good. The growth history is good. The payout ratio is fine. Revenue's growing, whatever. So, I owe it to the portfolio, and I also owe it to you guys too, to revisit a lot of these companies and come up with some better answers for you. So sorry, I don't have sorry to make that such a roundabout answer. So yeah, so this is a good question too. Any thoughts on Boglehead philosophy, which I believe is essentially just buying the index, right? Like, don't try to find the diamonds in the rough, or don't try to find the needles in the haystack. Just buy the haystack. I think that's a fine strategy. I don't have anything against that strategy. I think it's definitely one that works. It's just like dollar cost averaging into and ETFs every single week. I think it's totally fine for someone who wants a hands-off approach, who doesn't want to worry about picking stocks or um, just wants to spend their time doing other things. I think the buy the whole haystack and just don't think twice about it and just kind of forget about it. I think that's a pretty good way to go. I will say the reason that, and I'm starting to put more money into more like, I guess, passive things, passive vehicles like VU or SCHD, which are still like, I guess, in a way, a bit selective with their holdings versus maybe a real true Boglehead approach would just be buying everything, even the companies beyond what's in VU, so even probably beyond what's in VTI. So, but anyway, what I was trying to get to was the reason that I personally like picking stocks or have taken that approach, at least with my main portfolio, is just because I enjoy it. Like I enjoy the process of learning about these companies and learning what it takes to research these companies. It's something that I've been having a lot of fun doing, and so um, yeah, that's kind of I guess why I do it. It's kind of like, I don't know. I guess in a way, picking individual stocks is like having a watch collection. You have certain watches that you like. I've kind of become a watch guy too. You guys have seen me wear different watches, but it's been fun. It's been fun looking out there at the different watches, seeing what other people are wearing, and looking for the ones that jump out at you, and also learning more about them, learning more about Seiko, or learning more about Bulova, or Squale, which is a company that I just heard about recently, or Tudor, and how their history with Rolex and how they've been compared in the past. Anyway, long story short, there's a lot of nuance in the watch, really anything that you can collect, whether it's Pokemon cards or Yu-Gi-Oh cards or rocks back to watches, I suppose. There's so much nuance in there that it makes it really interesting. You start getting interested in this stuff, and I don't know, sometimes the deeper you go, the more interested you get. And that kind of became the thing for me with stocks. Like what I said a few moments ago or a few minutes ago, when I first started investing, I was like, I don't really care. I just want to invest because I know it's important, and I want to get out of this job. So um, I need to do it. But then once I started doing it and started learning more about it, I started getting more interested in it, which, yeah, just made me want to get deeper and more involved with it. So, and some people don't get that. Like, some people don't have that itch when it comes to stocks, and so some people don't have that interest, which is totally fine. But those people might have that, might want to go to that depth with other things. Like maybe they're into fantasy football or football in general, or golf, comparing different drivers, which is something that I don't personally care about. Or maybe they're into scuba diving. It could literally be anything. Guitars, that's a great example. Drums. In the case of Jonah, we got keyboards. He's a really talented keyboardist. But so anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is that's why I don't necessarily take the Boglehead approach, but I think it's a fine one. I totally think it's fine. And I think the overall message there is everyone's got to invest in a way that fits that matches their temperament. if you're not into this stuff and you don't care about it, like there's things you can invest in so you don't have to think about it. But then again, like if you are interested in it, and we don't really get to pick and choose the things that we're interested in, I suppose. We just kind of try things on and see how they fit. And sometimes things stick. And if that's been the case for you with stocks, then give it a shot, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, there we go. Just missed you. Let's see. Yeah, we're actually ultra runners in the building. We are all caught up in the chat, guys. Wow. With that said, though, I think this is a pretty good place to wrap it up. This has been our longest dividend happy hour in a long, long time. So, yeah, I'm going to put this up on the screen. So, if there are any metalheads in here, check out my band Pyramaze. I'm guessing it's Pyramaze. But yeah, I actually didn't know that you did that, Jonah, until I think Russ told me about that. And man, I thought it was really cool. I thought it was really cool that you did that, and you're very talented, man. So, so good stuff. Keep it up. Zach says, I'm new here. When are the happy hours? So usually, man, the happy hours are every Friday night. Fridays starting at 5 p.m. So the same time that this one started tonight. The only reason I did it tonight is because tomorrow night we have some plans, so I won't be around. And so I didn't want to leave you guys hanging this week. So just bumped the live stream up till tonight. Okay, there we go. I promised you too, we're gonna wrap it up in just a moment. So, but we have Adrian here who just tuned in. Tell you what, guys, the unfortunate thing about talking about all these books is that I have to put them away afterwards. So, Adrian, the 3 books are The Snowball, which is the biography on Warren Buffett. Highly recommend this one. Psychology of Money, absolute classic. Got to read this one. And then Richer, Wiser, Happier by William Green. Definitely check this one out as well. But then as a 4th one, as a bonus one, Warren Buffett and the Interpretation of Financial Statements. So there we go. That's the list. And I guess we'll leave it at that. But guys, excuse me. Oh, excuse me. Goodness gracious. I'm having such a hard time getting off this stream, but we're doing it, guys. I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me these last hour and 40 minutes. Goodness gracious. It means the world to me. Your support just here on the channel and on the newsletter and everything truly means the world. I can't express that enough. So thank you guys so much. And with that, any last thoughts here? If you want to read the newsletter that went out this week, once again, there's a link to it in the description of the video. Definitely check that out. And also sign up for the newsletter so you can get that sent to your inbox every single week. We're actually almost at 13,000 readers, 13,000 email subscribers, which is just incredible. Incredible, guys. That thing is really taken off. So yeah, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord group, which is basically just another version of the live chat. Just a big group chat filled with a ton of dividend investors. We have close to 2,800 members in there. So definitely join that. There's a link in the description as well. I don't think there's anything else I have for you guys. Sunday, I'll be coming out with my monthly portfolio update video. So check that out because that'll be a good one. And then next Wednesday, guys, we already spoiled it. So anyone watching this already knows, but next Wednesday, I'm going to be talking about a new stock that I added to my portfolio. So that'll be an interesting one. Hopefully, guys, even those of you who know what the stock is, hopefully you guys tune into it. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you guys all once again so much. And I suppose I will just see you in the next one. I hope you guys have a great night. And thanks for hanging out with me tonight. I really appreciate it.